Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I greet you all according to your time and locations you will be watching this video. Yes, my dear viewers, I am back again with another update. So guys, I have a video here I would like we all to watch. But before then, if you're missing my channel for the very first time, you're highly welcome. Please kindly do well to like, share and subscribe. Leave your thought on the comment section. Let us know what you think about this video and I will see you towards the end.
The knowledge of the fact that we have to confront this system head on. The one thing we must not do is confront it with violence. So long ago, in my own head, and I laid it out in the imperatives of the Nigerian Revolution, a line was drawn in the sand. And that line was the point where the court of justice would be completely unveiled to the people, where they come to the knowledge of the fact that what they believe to be the last hope of the common man is indeed completely hopeless. Now, I've been telling all of you for years about the uselessness of the Nigerian judiciary. Even when I was being tried within that judiciary, I never came to the public space to talk about it. But I kept saying that the judiciary is completely useless and unfit for purpose to serve the cause of justice to a very large extent. When they didn't want justice done, they simply promulgated ouster clauses to make sure that they took away the powers of the justices to do justice. But now we have a democracy. And in the last 24 years of this, our nascent democracy, we have found ourselves in a situation where a most rapacious executive has proceeded to make the judiciary in its own image. This is what the like of us had known and were complaining about for years. But much as we might complain, nothing changed. And as the years have progressed, I have laughed when they say the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. I laugh because I know as a fact that the Nigerian judiciary is no different from the Nigerian police. It is no different from INEC. There is nothing different between the Nigerian judiciary and any other strata of the society that we have built. It is delusional in the extreme to imagine that we have built this paradise of angels and our judiciary is somehow peopled by people different from us. So our judiciary is us. But Nigeria is in a moment in time where it is being confronted with the truth of its abject nudity. This is where we begin to tie it together. If you say the judiciary is the last hope of the common man, it then means that for you to be able to preserve the illusion of a democracy, justice must be seen to be done. So this is the part where we now begin to connect with certain influences and influencers. Just before the release of the judgment of the PAPT, a woman who has been variously alleged to be the conduit for corruption in the judiciary, particularly the Supreme Court, sat at a private event praising the legal dexterity of Tinubu's legal team at the tribunal, threatening fire and brimstone and telling all of us about just exactly how we must accept whatever the pronouncement of the PAPT might be. Let me tell you something. The problem with the man that the system has coalesced around this time around is that in order to preserve the life of a Tinubu presidency, the existing legal order would have to be destroyed by the judiciary. I will explain myself. There are multiple inconsistencies that cannot be consistent either with common sense or law that would have to be upheld by the judiciary before it might uphold the lives of Mahmoud and INEC. So, when the last hope of the common man is lost, what is the common man to do? This is the part where you begin to deal with the legitimization of grievances. And that is where the concept of Bajue and all the other influencers who have been busy seeking to delegitimize the grievances of those who witnessed the brutal snatch it, grab it, run with it that took place and was aided, painfully aided by Mahmoud and INEC. And then they blithely told us before the entire world, go to court. The confidence with which they declared that we should go to court was suggestive of a thief who was aware that his accomplice awaits, because this was a brazen theft, brazen in the extreme. People were killed, threats were issued in broad daylight, actual intimidation took place. In places like rivers, it was so brazen. All over the country, clear evidences of state-aided brigandage against those who elected to exercise their franchise. But when our dear prof, who has decided to become partisan on the side of Tinubu, his friend, would characterize the fascists, it was the victims that became fascists. Another story for another day. These are the delegitimization of grievances. And it deodorizes fascism because the true fascists are given free passes, whilst the victims are labeled. And these labels are coming from no less than a person unto whom we would have looked, not only for guidance, but for the truth. And these are not truths. They are obvious misstatements of facts. So the question is this: why are our grievances being delegitimized? Since when did generals, aside from the liability that OBJ is, since when did they become part of the obedient movement? Since when have we embraced them as a movement that they are now the ones using us? We are a regional party, but we whooped Tinubu's ass in Lagos, whooped his ass in Plateau, in Benue, and we are a regional party in Adamawa, in Nasarawa. These are deliberate attempts at delegitimization, because if you do not delegitimize, you cannot substantiate the hope that the judiciary is about to crush. But why are they seeking to delegitimize? Let me remind you, when the existing legal order as of 1979 had died, the Nigerian Supreme Court, in a precedence it demanded must not be used under the doctrine of stare decisis, which means that the judgment of the upper court must bind the lower court. That court, at that time, declared that the decision that 2/3 of 19 states was, I think, 12 to 3rd or some ingenious fraud or the other, but it declared that it must not be used as a precedent in future. Is the Supreme Court being prepped for something similar by those who will seek to delegitimize the victory of the obedient movement? Not Peter Obi, it is the obedient movement. Peter Obi being merely our totem. Is it that we are being prepared for the marketing that the Tinubu government is already seeking to do, to claim that this is all about Peter Obi, the Igbos, and IPOB? No. This is about hope. This is about tomorrow. This is about the judiciary interpreting the laws as imperfect as they are. The 1999 Constitution is a fraud. I was one of the first to start yelling about it in recent times. A fraud. The 24 of 1999 is a fraud. We've said so repeatedly. Now, if it has run its course, and the judiciary must understand that it has run its course, then let the judiciary pronounce it so. But to continue to presume, to believe that the existing legal order, which has declared very clearly, copiously, the status of Abuja, the issue with forfeiture, the sacrosancy of beavers and its application, and numerous other grounds upon which many other lawyers who care to practice will proceed before the Supreme Court. Let it be known that it will be the Nigerian judiciary that would terminate the existing legal order by its refusal to uphold the law. Now, when this has been done, what do? I told you, there is a critical need to build a moral majority instead of the violence that the system is seeking and that it would prefer. Because this is the part that we are entering deep waters. Hear me, we are entering deep waters. And this is where the deep must call to the deep. However few we are, this is the time when we must engage with all, because this is not some pro-democracy thing. Let's be clear. For the existing legal order to be destroyed and a government to be in place, it will mean that the law no longer rules. It will be the imperatives of men. If the imperatives of men are going to rule, it is on the conscious to begin to deal with the issues outside of politics. This is where the likes of my brothers, I don't want to start calling anyone out this morning, but if you are a Nigerian, you need to ask yourself exactly what are the boundaries of truth. Did we just have an election, truly so-called? Forget your political affiliations, your tribal affiliations, your religious nonsense and all of that. Did we just have an election? If we did a winner truly emerge based on clear it? If one has emerged in your own view, ask yourself the parameters of truth by which you have measured. What tainted your stream to the point where you could deodorize a lie? Let's be clear. Tinubu is a lie. Everything about Tinubu is a lie. And everyone who would deign to cloak him would have to unveil themselves. You would have to uncloak yourself to cover Tinubu. And everyone who would presume to do so would only find that their own cloak of honor be shed for nothing because the lie that he is cannot be sustained. That is the reality of Tinubu. If the judiciary presumes to believe that it can legitimize what is essentially a lie, what will simply happen is that the last vestige of honor that might be presumed to the court, it will have to dip it in the soil and then wear it upon a man it will not fit. And then it itself will be completely naked. By the end of this process, we will know very clearly whether indeed the judiciary is the last hope of the common man, or whether it is the proof of the hopelessness of the Nigerian situation. When hope is snatched, what usually happens is that the hopeless becomes violent. And this is where we enter the deep waters. It is not in our interest to be violent. This is one of the first things we must tell ourselves. I'm not saying that we should be passive. I'm not suggesting that we should be accepting of slavery. But I am saying that we must begin to examine our options, but nothing violent must cross our minds. Reason being this, the system had hoped that we would have taken to the street after February 25. Our refusal to take to the street is the reason why we are still talking about the legitimacy of Jaguda's government. If we had taken to the street, a few would have been killed, if not many. A people that would deny the daylight murder, unprovoked murder at Lekki toll gate, they would exclaim, and I assure you, the victims will be the ones that will be labeled the fascists. Let's be clear about that. So, avoid every invitation to violence. We are not without options when it comes to modes of protests. If we engage the street or offer opportunity for the system to find sacrificial lambs, it will grab it, it will snatch it, it will run with it, and we will be the ones that will be blamed for provoking, sustaining violence that the system would have been the one not only to provoke, but to sustain. There are multiple levels of protest. But before we get to that point, we must take time to step outside of our comfort zones, engage with other victims, because whether they be PDP, APC, my orange wearing revolutionaries, we are all victims of a common evil. We must move beyond our disagreements with the other victims. I'm not talking about the beneficiaries. There are beneficiaries who do not want anything to change. They are grievance contractors. They enjoy the arguments and the pains. They make monies from it. We must move beyond all of that. We must reach out. Let them see the commonalities. Don't focus on the pain. Forget what they said in March, even triumphantly, even after the PEPT. Look beyond that, because if we are divided before we get to the point of engagement, what happens is that fellow victims become soldiers in the war against us. So it is critical that we move beyond that, engage with them, show them. The purpose of my time with you is to help you to weaponize your brain. He who is not against you is for you. If you get them to the point where they understand why you are aggrieved, how related to them you are, instead of...
So guys, thank you so much for watching. What do you think about this video? Please kindly drop your opinion down below. I'll see you in my next one. Bye for now.